Welcome to the Tech Panel.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The podcast where tech minds meet.
Okay, so welcome to the Tech Panel, the show where we dive into the world of startups, innovation, and technology. I'm your host, James Arvin.
I'm Em Glasser.
And I'm Matt Finnegan.
And on today's episode of the Tech Panel, we're joined by a visionary entrepreneur who's been transforming the way digital marketplaces operate. Richard Tenser is the CEO and founder of Nabooki, a platform redefining marketplace technology with a zero-commission booking system. Welcome to the show, Richard. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks. Nice to meet you guys.
It's a
Thanks
pleasure.
for inviting me.
So nice to meet you.
That's the first intro I had to do. I was a little bit panicky for a second there.
No, you did well.
Richard, we've got a few different questions for you. We really want to get this show on the roll here. So can you walk us through a bit of your journey, how you began as an entrepreneur? So maybe share with us a story of how your first business venture, how you started at the age of 21.
All right. Okay. We're going back that far, huh?
Oh, yeah. Reel it back.
Actually, I can go back further. I think my first enterprise was when I started selling coffee at school. I was brought up in the UK where the weather's a lot colder, so break time was always indoors. So I started a coffee club. Was instant coffee in those days, but that was my first enterprise.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Selling
You've been grinding since like 10.
Yeah. Then I actually, I think probably if you're born with an entrepreneurial sort of spirit, you try lots of things. When I first got a car or a little van when I was 17, I went door to door, fitting spy holes in people's doors so they could see who was there. And at £5 a time, it was quite profitable. I'd go out the day before. I printed up some little cards that said, "Knock, knock, who's there?" on one side of the door, and on the other side was, "You don't know who's on the other side of that door."
That is genius.
Between 5 and 5. Timed it so that, I knew how many I'd hit in an hour or so. Yeah, it was good. I just sort of fit about 10 spy holes in an evening, and that was my
It's so good.
job.
It's actually
Look, I studied law, and then I realized pretty quickly, my mum wanted me to be a lawyer. We often do things our parents want us to do at that age. And I pretty realized after I'd finished studying law that it's not what I wanted to do. And I started... I actually went to work for a firm called Budget Rent-A-Car. I mean, they're still around, I think, Budget Rent-A-Car. And just self-drive car rental. And I liked the job, I liked the work, and it seemed like they weren't running a very good show, but making money. So I sort of decided to start my own car rental business, which I started with 6 Volkswagens back in 1978. So, I was 21. And that grew to 7,000 cars by 1984. So in 5 years, it was pretty big success.
Wow.
So
that's a bit crazy. I'm trying to imagine myself. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay there, man. I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
No.
I was just going to say, I find it really wild to imagine someone at the age of 21 with the mindset of, let's start a business, and I got 7 cars. I bet I can turn this into a few thousand in a couple of weeks. Or months or years, whatever it was. What sort of primed your brain to be in that state of mind?
It was very slow at first, I'll be honest. I think I went from 6 cars to 12 within a year, and then the next year I got up to about 30 cars. And I was washing the cars. In those days, I wore a suit. I was washing the cars in a suit, delivering them down to the airport, and then hitchhiking back. And so startup stuff. And when I first started, I was driving a cab, at night as well to keep the money rolling. So it was a real startup. And then I think if you work hard enough, you get a bit lucky. And I had a couple of lucky breaks, a couple of ideas that came to me through meetings. Mm-hmm. And really the business really took off maybe 3-4 years after I started. And then just mushroomed from I think 500 cars to 7,000 cars in about a year.
Wow, I feel like not many 21-year-olds would have that motivation.
I don't know a single
I was about
one.
26 by then, but it was good. The business was making millions of pounds, and About a lot of the cars did a lot of luxury cars. So I had the
Yeah.
pleasure of driving Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Aston Martins and Rolls Royces, from a very young age. So Porsches, you name it. We had about 100 cars that I'd say were sort of luxury cars, performance cars, and the rest were your bread and butter Fords and
Dream come
Holdens
true.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Under 30, own a few Ferraris, a few Porsches. I'm still trying to.
Yeah, I used to drive them home, of an evening, like I'd swap cars. My office at that stage was near the depot at Heathrow Airport. So I'd call in there. The office was open till midnight. So when I finished work, it was normally pretty late. I'd call in there and just grab whatever I fancied to take home for the evening.
Yeah.
So I got the pleasure of driving all these different cars. And yeah, in fact, I remember coming to work along the M25 one morning and getting pulled over by a cop. And I was in a Ferrari Testarossa, I think. And he said, "Mate, you're going over the limit, but I can understand it in a car like this. So I'm going to let you off with a warning." So that same evening, I was going home in a Lamborghini Countach, and I got pulled over again by the same guy.
Oh,
Who
yeah.
sort of like it was a different color car and everything. So you realize straight away this. He said, "What?" He
What
said,
is happening?
"Respect." He said, "However, I let you off with a warning this morning. You've gone well over the limit. I'm going to let you off with the final warning." So there you go. I got set up again.
They don't breed them like they used to, mate. I promise you. And
Nowadays I get tickets with 5 kilometers over. So
Yeah.
seriously, I tell you what, if it's not a person
so
that
that
gets
was
you,
my
it's a
first,
camera.
Yeah.
my first run in business was successful, was the car rental business in the UK, and I sold that before I came out here.
And I wanted to ask this question just before we move on to the next topic, but can you think of any catalyst in particular that sort of got you into the mindset of being a young entrepreneur? I'm really curious, just what kind of separates you from the rest of the cattle out there? What makes you so different?
Well, I don't know. I'm not different. I just realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to wear a suit, go to court every day, and just the whole 9 to 5 thing. I always sort of had this feeling that it gave me a buzz to sort of create something out of nothing. I get more turned on by startups than I do when businesses get big. I sort of if they get too big, I think, well, I just would like to sell it now because I'm not enjoying it so much. So it's the startup that I think excites me. Maybe, creating something out of thin air, I guess, something that never existed and then it exists. So that's kind of what gives me the buzz. Yeah.
Well, it seems to pan out for you quite well.
Yeah.
And then obviously your entrepreneurial journey is
Not all has been as successful as that business. I'll be honest. I've had to shut 2 or 3 down over the years. I've never left owing anyone any money. If a business hasn't gone so well, I think sometimes you've got to swallow your pride and just go, look, this ain't working. And it can be a number of hundreds of reasons why. But yeah, there's been some successes as well, and so you have to I think. Someone once said to me that there's no successful man that hasn't had his nose blooded a few times along the way, and from my experience, that's definitely true. I've had, difficult, challenging experiences. I've had employees that have stolen from me, considerable amounts of money, and stolen IP, and so I've definitely had some unpleasant experiences along the way, but a lot of good times as well. So.
I do want to focus in on that. I think something is particularly interesting here is, what are some of those key lessons or takeaways from that period of your time where you were going through that, young entrepreneurial journey through, the USA, Australia, and across the UK?
Key lessons. Whoa. Look, normally what I find is that, the things that happen that make a business successful often happen when you least expect it. And it's sometimes sort of 2 or 3 things come together just at the right time. You identify a new need and there's something that just fits it. And then you meet somebody else who says, hey, you should talk to this guy. And, I've always tried to, do people favors if I can along the way because people have for me. And often that's really paid dividends,
That seems to be a
That's
recurring
really good
theme.
advice.
Yeah, we're hearing that a lot when we speak to people. It's always comes down to, I just happen to know it feels like the right people at the right time that kind of encourage me in the right direction. I think there's maybe some type of opportunity out there for us to speak to people about their mentors and how they kind of
Yeah.
put them on the road to success. But
This
maybe that's a
was
conversation for
funny,
another
like,
time.
a big turning point in my car business was a guy called me up, one of the car manufacturers, and said, I'm flying out the country and I've heard you've got an office near the airport. And have you got a car parking space? I could leave my car there for a couple of weeks and I'll go away with my family. And I said, sure, yeah, I've got 14 spaces. You know, you can use one of those. And when he came back, he bought me a coffee and he gave me a few tips on how things work in the car industry from the manufacturer's point of view. And that just slotted in with other things I was working on, and that was a real turning point. So, yeah, just sometimes, the phone rings, you pick it up, and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like even just like
talking of phone ringing, so
no, all good.
You made me check my phone.
Yeah, I guess that's like such good advice. Like even just, taking sort of every opportunity you can, like, because you don't know where it's gonna take you. So yeah, Richard, you're the CEO and founder of Nabooki. Can you tell us a little bit about what it does and I guess what inspired you to start it?
It seems like a real big change to go from car bookings to what you're doing right now. I'd love to hear that happen.
well, it's still service industry. Yeah. So I don't know. As you go through life, like I was pretty successful early on. I got offered a lot of money for that business in the UK, which which I took my wife's advice and turned down, and then regretted it because ended up selling it for a lot less after 3 years of pain. So go with your instinct. One bit of advice: don't necessarily listen to what your wife says. But
Following that advice for years.
sorry, Em.
That's why I'm single.
I'm misogynistic. Or other people, like everyone will give you advice. You just got to believe in yourself. And make your own decisions.
Yeah.
But look, I've lost my train of thought now. It was
No, all good. I guess what inspired you to start Nabooki, and I guess how
right. Yeah. So as I've gone through, when I started out, it was all about making money. That was really important, and I was trying to give a good service, be very customer. I've always been customer centric, but as time has gone on, it's sort of been less about making money, and I think that was the case with Nabooki. More about providing a service and doing good, and you like to try and think that you're doing some good in the world. To me, anyway, that's become more and more important. And Nabooki has that opportunity. It came about through. I don't know if you remember when Groupon and the likes of those companies started. I'm going back maybe 10 or 12 years. And, they were all the rage for a little while. You could buy a half-price meal at a restaurant and, buy a voucher. And, it was too good to be true, sort of half price. Yeah. So, but the restaurants were being charged 40% of what was left out of the 50% they got, 40%. So 70%, and effectively the restaurants were working on 30 cents on the dollar. So I saw an opportunity there, really. I've always believed with technology that it should save costs. And if you do it properly, you let the tech do the work, and then there's real cost savings which can be passed on. So I started a business that was a member, a SaaS business that was consumer pay, $10 a month, and you could eat half price, but the restaurants kept all the money. They kept the 50%. And it worked well for restaurants because, especially early doors, they like to get people in the window. It draws other customers in. They're never full. So the extra tables does definitely help, fixed and variable costs and so on. But at least they weren't being ripped off, because the Groupon experience in those days was actually, not very good for the customers either. When you're a Groupon customer, you'd sit in the corner. And, they used to say in those days, if you go on a first date and you bring out a Groupon voucher, you're going home alone. So
confirmed.
I imagine they had sort of negative knock-on effects. Sorry, go on a minute.
Yeah, and it was going actually a lot better than I thought. I had about 300 or 400 restaurants and maybe about 3,000 or 4,000 users.
Oh, wow.
Paying $10 a month. So, but I was sort of losing money, and I've been at it for about 18 months or nearly 2 years. And I thought, I don't like this losing money business. This is not going as well as I'd like. And I ironically went to see Groupon and said, look, would you guys like to sell annual memberships to my program? And, I did a deal with them. They loved the pricing, but they said it kind of competes with our business, but we like your technology. So ironically, I ended up developing the technology I built for our own dining platform and licensing it to Groupon and working for them for the next several years, and all the other daily deal companies as well. And as Groupon, as it worked so well, it gave them a chance for their customers to check availability in restaurants before they bought a voucher, so they didn't get that sort of unpleasant, ringing up a restaurant. Hi, have you got a table on Saturday? Oh yes, I got a Groupon voucher. Oh no, it's suddenly we don't have that table, but you can come down on Tuesday. It's a horrible experience for customers and restaurants to have those awkward conversations. So it took all that away. Groupon liked it. And they asked us if we could do it for all the other types of local services that they did. So it was yoga and salons and classes, courses, and all the different vouchers that they were selling. So we developed this technology that really was very broad in terms of the number of different verticals that it could serve, all of which have hundreds of different user cases. So that's kind of how Nabooki started. I let my own platform go and ended up selling my soul to Groupon. But we did it in a way, white label, so we could use the technology for the greater good, which is mainly what we do now, and we mainly do government work nowadays.
For anyone who's unfamiliar with that term white label, could you sort of explain that for our listeners?
Yeah, sure. It's interesting you say that, because a lot of people say their platform is white label when it's not. So basically it means if I were to go to, let's say, Woolworths, and they wanted a marketplace created, we could Woolworths branding on it, and it could all be. So a lot of people use that white label term, just basically putting branding on a website. But ours is truly white label in as much as the content that's in there is very different from from one marketplace to another. And that's because from the back end, the merchants are able to upload different inventory, and whoever owns the marketplace can choose what they want in there, and they don't. So it's not just a rebranding or a cloning. Cloning is often mistaken for white label. A true white label is where we use the technology, but it can be customized very easily to suit the client, and the client can have their own identity and branding on it.
And then on white labeling, is that just generally more cost effective for clients as well as easier to implement? Is there other benefits of kind of going with a white label solution as well?
No, it's interesting. Sometimes we get clients that say, look, we don't really want our branding on it because they're nervous in case it goes wrong, so they want to protect their brand.
Yeah.
We have had examples with a major telco, not Telstra, but another one, where we built a dining platform for them. They said, no, we don't want our name on it. And then as they saw it being built and saw the functionality, it changed our mind. We'd like it to be our marketplace. So we flicked it over and made a white label and put their branding all over it. So, if it's a kind of a double-edged sword, I suppose, for a client, that if it goes well, it's great for their brand. And if for some reason it's not met favorably by their consumers, then there's potential for brand damage, So, but majority of what we do is white label. Government is different. We often just make up a name. We have to come up with a name for a site because they don't want their brand on it. So we've created sites where, literally overnight we've come up with a name and grabbed a domain from GoDaddy, and away we go.
I feel weird about that. Not knowing that it is a government website, but it looks like it's just some private website.
Yeah.
It's like the man behind the curtain. Is it?
Richard, how does Nabooki differ from your previous companies? Is there any sort of standout?
Look, everything I've done has been different, really. I have to say that. I've done a lot of different industries I've worked in, and it's Nabooki is a book. Basically, these booking systems that we built for Groupon, incorporated into a marketplace, so that marketplaces, for example, Airbnb or Uber, these are kind of services marketplaces. So a product marketplace would be like Amazon, where there's, you go to Amazon, there's a book, it's in stock, they send you the book, simple sort of transaction. There's the logistics of getting the book to you. But it's either they've got the book or they haven't, they've got to order it. Whereas with services, it relies on a time being available, a room, it might be a table in a restaurant. It requires a member of staff that's got to provide that haircut, so they've got to be available. So there's a lot more going on there, really, which is why services marketplace taken a bit longer to take off. Amazon was really sort of 20 years or so before the sort of the Ubers of this world came along. But marketplaces are places of discovery. So they are popular with people because, I'm sure you've used Airbnb. Once you get on there, oh, look, this one, how about that one? Oh, that one's a bit near the water. And hey, look at this. It's a real, you can start to really get engaged with it. So that's what we aim to do with all the marketplaces we build. People, tend to get sticky with it. And then hopefully they come back, they have a good experience, they come back. Yeah.
Interesting.
And Nabooki, although we build a lot of marketplace, and we never use our name. Nabooki is always very much hidden in the bottom, so it's a name that not many people know. But I think we worked out that one out of every 2 Australians has made a booking with us.
Oh, wow.
So
Pretty big.
Yeah.
so if you booked a swimming lesson, or I should turn off my pings there.
Well, that's strike 2, brother.
It'll easily book us without realizing it.
Richard, I've
Sorry?
No, I think throughout like the conversation so far, you've kind of mentioned a few times that like having great technology is a real differentiator. And kind of, researching you before today's kind of podcast, I was thinking to myself, like, booking in itself seems like a pretty simple concept. You call your local restaurant and ask for a booking. But you've created this like fantastic business from digitizing this process. And like looking at your website, there seems to be a lot of other benefits to like digitizing booking through like automating invoicing, capturing leads, data analytics. So I'm just curious, because obviously a lot of different companies have some sort of booking component. Like from your perspective, what is the benefit for companies digitizing kind of bookings?
Yeah, well, everything is kind of going digital nowadays. So and it makes life a lot easier. I don't know, many of us walk around with cash, or we don't walk around with wallets. We just walk around with our phone. Pretty soon you won't need driving license or Medicare cards or MyGov
True.
ID or anything.
Yeah.
It's just your phone. Phone does it all. So everything is going digital.
Yeah.
With AI, of course, that's adding another dimension to it, because the bots are able to search for things as well.
Yeah.
But unless a merchant, unless a service provider actually uploads their inventory, their availability, an AI bot won't find you. So there's a long way to go, really, before AI can replace bookings marketplaces. So,
Okay.
yeah. And also, like, our sort of sweet, unique spot, I suppose, within that as well, that is the processing of vouchers, which we got from working with Groupon. So now we do quite a lot of, we did a lot of work during COVID around economic stimulus. So where the government was giving away $50 vouchers for meals or tourism or whatever. So we did a lot of those kind of programs, and we still do like fire relief programs. So wherever the government needs some sort of stimulus program, and they want to make sure that M is entitled to $100 off this service provided by Matt, that M gets the $100 from Matt. She can't use it somewhere else. She can only use it once. Matt's the only person, so that sort of very unique identifier and relationship is built into the rules of the marketplace. So that's kind of which makes our technology a bit different from your regular marketplace.
Interesting.
I mean, obviously, we've got all the payment gateways installed within the marketplace as well. So if you're spending $100 for Matt, but it's a $200 booking, you can pay the extra $100 on your credit card, and it all happens seamlessly. So we're very much end to end for our clients. They
Okay, so I
fortunately
guess
trust us.
and so I guess as a founder, you clearly like believe in having world-class technology. Like, how has that come to be? Is that something you truly invest in? Is it something you kind of stumbled on as like a winning formula? I guess how's it happened really?
Yeah, no, look, I think, one thing I've learned over the years is you shouldn't rush recruitment. When you're hiring people for a business, for a startup, you really should, or even when you're up and going, there's even more of a temptation. We need someone desperately, we're urgent,
Yeah.
here's someone, they're sort of okay, I think. And I'd say as a CEO and founder, it's probably the most important job is who you hire. because, getting a bad hire, someone that's, not got the skills you need or has a bad attitude. I used to think culture was not really, bit of a, whatever, not that important. It really is, having a good atmosphere, having people with soft skills that get on, that can chat and like to work for each other, and someone that's got your back if you make a mistake.
Yeah.
These are really important things. So, particularly in startups, and I found that in the technology, as you ask, getting the right sort of handful of really good developers in a good team with the right complementary skills, I kind of liken it to a speedboat versus a battleship. Some of these tech companies we compete with have got 5,000 developers.
Yeah.
But we can develop a better product in half the time with a handful. Like
Yeah.
it's, I've been to meetings at big companies where there's sort of 40 people in the meeting, and after 6 hours of talking, the only thing you decide is that we need another meeting, because the bigger you are, the more conversations go on, the more people put up their hand with objections, the much slower things move. And I've worked with banks and governments, and sometimes things move very slowly in those big organizations.
Yeah,
So-
Richard, just
So get
quickly,
the right people. Really important to not.
sorry, Richard. Just diving like a little bit deeper to when you're hiring people, because when like in our business, like we talk about soft skills and all of that, like all the time. Would you say that's something that you would look more now in these days, like when you're hiring people for your company, is those types of skills?
Yeah, very, very much so. I think if you've got someone that doesn't have those skills, it can be so disruptive for the team. And if you're not careful, I've lost good people because they haven't enjoyed the environment they worked in, because there's someone in that environment that's, maybe having a bit of a whinge, about things, and sort of it's just unsettling,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
those right people, it's not just the skills, it's the attitude.
Yeah.
And then, really, I always try and really look after people, and particularly in startups, I try to make sure that they've got what I call ESOP shares, which is, share options where, if the company does well, they do well on exit.
Yeah.
So, good people, look after them well. I think that's probably the most important job as a CEO, founder.
Yeah. That's really good advice.
I'm a little bit curious here when it comes for hiring. I think it's a really important topic. I'm not sure what it's like for the rest of the panel or interviewers here, but when I first went into tech, one thing that really stood out to me was actually quite shocking was the interview process. I think a lot of people do this in tech. They go through anywhere from 4 to 8 rounds of interviews. And it was a new experience for me, which kind of shed a light really early on how seriously people in tech take the people that they're bringing into the business. Can you sort of shed a little bit of light for us? Like what kind of qualities or skills really stand out to you, or how do you make a decision on who you want to bring into the business?
Yeah. So I really try and get the job defined first of all. I think a mistake a lot of companies make is, we've got Fred here, and Fred's a lovely guy, and he's just wife's just had a baby, and he's not really suitable for this role, but we don't want to let him go, and he is a nice guy, so we give that job to Fred. So it's sort of finding jobs for the people you like and people and even if it's not the right fit for that person. So I think it's really defining the job well and making sure that, it's like building a jigsaw. The pieces have got to fit together. You don't want any missing pieces, but they've all got to fit nice and tight together with no gaps. Don't mean to liken people to pieces of the jigsaw, but anyway, it's the best analogy
This
I've
is
come up with.
classic. This is exactly what I mean, right? Like tech people, I mean, I think the classic example that we're all familiar with, especially growing up in other industries, is there's a job out there that people want to solve for, and they kind of treat people as tools to solve that challenge or fix that thing. And what you're sort of describing here is you have a person and you're going to find a job that's right for them. And I think that's a pretty unique perspective, putting people first in the business.
Yeah, it's I think if you're, and we're all kind-hearted people. We all want the good of the best for people, especially nice people. So sometimes it's better to let someone go if they're not a good fit, and just let them, give them time, and you give them a payoff, and you try and make it as comfortable as possible and give them good references. But in the long run, it's better for them too to find something that's a better fit for them. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like yeah, you've mentioned obviously like relationships has been a big part of your success with customers, but also internally, right? Like relationships with your employees and your staff seems like a big focus internally as well.
Yes, yeah, I think that's kind of they go hand in hand. I think if you're just if you have empathy as a person and you listen well and you those sort of soft skills yourself, then I think you have that sort of way of dealing with customers and stuff. Similarly, treating them people well. It it's business is not just about the money. It's about getting up in the morning and looking forward to going to work and enjoying it. Even if you're working from home, probably even more so now working from home, it's important to have those soft skills and to have, people that you can trust, and you haven't got to be, obviously we put in metrics to make sure that the output's there and we're happy with the work that's being done. But generally speaking, you don't, I grew up in a time, in my early days when your boss would look over your shoulder to make sure you were what you were doing, you'd be really in the office under the eyeballs all the time,
Yep.
Yeah.
Thankfully those days are gone. So, and I kind of think it is all about people. Like someone asked me the other day, do you find you've got staff working from home and people working in the office? What works better? And really, it's kind of the same. If you've got people that have got the right attitude and the right work ethic, it doesn't matter whether they're working in the office or they're working from home. It's going to be the same.
Yeah.
They're a good member of staff. And conversely, if they don't have that, it doesn't matter whether they're under your eyes in the office or at home, you're going to get poor results.
This is such a controversial topic right now in Australia. We're seeing it on the
Yeah.
news every day where big businesses really pushing for employees to go back into the office,
Yeah.
always be in front of a computer and have eyes on your people. And I think they're kind of associating the economic woes of today with the productivity dropping because people move to a remote operation. And I'm not sure how the world feels about that, but it seems from your perspective, what you're saying is you can't associate whatever decline you're experiencing to the employees being remote. It really comes down to ensuring that you have the right people for the job. And if you trust them, pick the right people at the right time, you're going to get the same results regardless of whatever's happening out there.
Yeah, I still think you've got to have some layer of governance over what they do, and there's got to be consequences if they, start, uh, instead of taking a dog for a walk for an hour at lunchtime, they spend the rest of the afternoon at the beach. Or I know someone I found that some computers, they know when the mouse doesn't move or something for about if the mouse has moved for half an hour, they get an alert at head office. So he's invented some
Just
little
zaps you.
That's a good one.
makes it nice. Makes the mouse vibrate a little bit every half an hour. So
You know what I saw the other day? I saw someone take their little Roomba and they tied a string to their mouse. And their Roomba was cleaning their house, dragging their mouse behind it the entire day.
Listen, that's the type of creativity that business needs, all right?
Sure.
You know what?
Be a real bad day if a dog poops.
rewarded. You probably
So I've got a couple of questions
I'll
for
watch
you.
out for that.
I'm really interested in some of the types of issues that you experienced starting your business. Like, what are some of the common challenges that you experienced, and how did you solve for some of those? And I imagine, especially because you're working with such various industries out there, you've got regular commerce stores out there, then you've got your government entities that you're operating with as well. How do these unique experiences impact you on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. So, sometimes there's a very long sales cycle, particularly with government. You can have a 1 to 2 year decision-making process, which means you can be investing a lot of time and energy into something that you don't know will actually go anywhere. So that's definitely a risk when you're doing work for government. Corporates tend to make decisions a bit quicker. I think, obviously, in startups, it's about cash flow, generating positive cash flow as quick as you can, or raising money, having the ability to raise money. I found raising money in America to be problematic because American VCs and investors in America are only interested if your business is turning over $1 million a year. So let's say in America, they're not so interested in Aussie dollars. Where's
Yeah.
that? West Australia. So that's definitely. I walked up and down there's a street in Silicon Valley where all the VCs are. I think it's Sands Lane. It's Sands Road, Sands Lane. Anyway, I walked up and down there and knocked on a lot of doors, and I found that's definitely a common theme over there. I sat at the table where Mark Zuckerberg got his first money after he left Stanford, in the restaurant at the end of
really?
Sands
What?
Lane.
Interesting one.
So
Wow.
yeah, that's where the big money starts in America, as you probably know, Matt. Arvin.
That's got to be an interesting one. I never even
Yeah.
imagined that
Yeah.
someone
You're probably
marked in
American, right?
time.
Yeah.
This is where Zuckerberg signed it. The first dollar he made. Kind of interested. I
It's probably just a urban legend that's not great.
I wonder what
Every
Mark
great
has to say about this.
story starts off as an urban legend.
That's it.
Richard, as we wrap up the episode,
Yeah.
could you please share, I guess, one software or one piece of tech that has like helped you or Nabooki, or just, I guess, has been a game changer?
Okay, that's a good question too. So, look, I use a lot of tech, and I like tech a lot. It's fun,
My kind of
using
guy.
tech.
Yeah.
But in terms of practicality, I mean, often the best tech is not the most exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think probably the most boring looking website in the world is the most successful, being Google, it's just got a window, you type what you want in it, and there it is.
Yeah.
But I would say, technology-wise, a product we use called Asana is like a workflow management, which I use every day, and it really does mean that I can see where everyone is in their workflow. It's everyone's got visibility; they can see if they're holding someone up. It's a really good project management tool. So we use Asana, and that's probably the one I use the most. That's definitely the place I go to first thing in the morning, and make sure I've done all my tasks and assign out. See, we've got a flat structure. People give me tasks as well. So
Yeah, that we
Yeah.
use that too. It's a really good software, isn't it?
yeah, there's others. Monday I think is good as a competitor of theirs, but Asana, once you're used to using a particular one, you know how it is. You sort of stick with it if it's good. So Asana works well for us. Yeah, pleased to hear it does for you too.
We're so tribalistic with our software. I swear, once someone likes something, they never leave.
They never leave.
That's
Awesome.
the plan.
Yeah.
I know competitors of ours that make it hard for people to migrate away. They want to change, which I think
Yeah.
is really, we've got your data. If you want it back, you're going to have to work for it.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
I know one customer when they migrated, they had a different need, and I said to them, "What's the best thing that you like about our software?" And they said, "Well, there's loads of things, but one thing that's really good is how easy it is to migrate away." I'm not sure. I mean, that's nice. They said, we just a couple of clicks, we got all our data out, and everything was organized, and it was just a wonderful experience to say goodbye, which is fine.
I love
Which is
it.
Well,
fine.
Richard, I'd love to hear some closing thoughts from you really quickly. Where can our listeners learn more about you and Nabooki? And for anyone who is, again, listening in, can you explain a little about what Nabooki is and why it's valuable to businesses today, and where they can get in contact with you if they want to learn more?
Okay, well, just in a nutshell, I guess we're in the business of delivering services and benefits to consumers through bookings and marketplaces, and making a pleasant customer experience out of buying booking services online, paying for them, finding what they need, finding stuff. We're doing mainly work for government nowadays. I like working for government because we charge them a fee. We don't take commission out of the bookings. I know a lot of companies take 25, 30% commission. And, when you're taking that amount of money off the table, both the consumer gets a lesser experience because the supplier, the merchant, is got less money to play with. So they're going to either give them a smaller meal or give them some inferior service, or the supplier themselves go out of business. It's just 30% commission when you're running a hotel means, you're not going to have money to replace your carpets or beds or whatever. So I like with government, they're really there for the public good, and there to try and make sure that every penny, because it's taxpayers' money that comes through our marketplaces. I like the feeling that every penny of that goes where it's intended to, for the benefit of the community.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
And final question. It's been killing me all podcast. Who is the celebrity on the photo directly behind you, Richie? We can't.
I can
There's
see
someone directly behind.
This
Who's
is
that?
Kathy Freeman.
Kathy
Oh,
Freeman.
I love
Kathy Freeman.
it.
An
amateur
Aussie
hour.
icon.
Andy Warhol here. Over here, I'll just move the camera around. You can see Mother Teresa, I think, over there with the headphones on, and Einstein, Muhammad Ali.
Is that Mother Teresa right next to
You have Shakespeare
Muhammad
over
Ali,
here.
Muhammad Ali?
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, it's all AI images. They've been up on the wall
Do you
for a
feel
while.
the
Love
pressure
it.
of greatness weighing down on you all day, every day?
Yeah, looking down on me, making sure I'm doing the right thing.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Especially
Thanks so
Mother
much for your time, mate. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
But stay here because we have a few other things we want to chat with you about off air.
Thanks so much, Richard.
Okay.
Thank you.
1,
Thanks for tuning in to The Tech Panel. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. A huge thank you to our major sponsor, SmoothLink Integrations. Stay connected and keep up with all the latest in tech.